Good afternoon. Director General Harr Gunatilaka here, ADCP. Today we're covering Robert Meagher did every single homicide. Robert Meagher did every single homicide in Australia from 2003 to 2013. He did every single homicide. Cheese's group, the Ku Klux Klan, they're all the 14 family. You see there on the brief 444. They're all Judge Meagher's family DNA because they're all married in. He's the head, he's the grand dragon of the Ku Klux Klan, Judge Meagher. Pronounce Ma. All 14 family. We sent them to South Africa in 2014. So Robert Meagher did every single homicide. Anyone that solves a case, the crime isn't completed yet. They hover around, see who's sending information in, putting them into mental health, murdering them. The shark never has to stop swimming. The shark can never stop swimming. It's like medieval times in medieval England. Absolute zero, absolute fabrication, building absolute fabrication, absolute relationship programs, absolute programs, and the Australian government investigation standards, what they're not doing. Now the legal system has collapsed. They're not doing any more cases. They're just going to leave it ruined. The police are just going to leave it ruined. White power building cases, go over that again. Cheese's group, Ku Klux Klan, Robert Meagher, Judge Meagher's family, DNA, the witnesses travel in the ambulance to the hospital with the murder victim. Now, you notice on the news that the DNA varies from crime scene to who person that they've arrested. Now, this is the reason why, because everything is swapped around. The witnesses are actually charged with murdering them now. They've made statements, up to 40, 50 different statements in every single homicide case that they saw somebody. If they saw them, they're there. That means that they're there if they saw them. The shark never has to stop swimming. The crime isn't complete. They hover around, getting into mental health, saying you're crazy, seeing what you're doing. If you're solving a case, any investigators, Australian government investigation standards, absolute zero, absolute relationship programs, absolute fabrications, Aryan Brotherhood salute, absolute, Australian government investigation standards. The legal system has collapsed. It's fully collapsed, the legal system. But I did every single case. Robert Meagher did every single homicide case. I'm the ASIO National Security Director. But I did every single homicide case. Identify anyone that said he did Michelle Pogmore, he murdered. Anyone said that it solves a case, they murder them. They're not doing any more cases, they're just going to leave it ruined. ASIO advised Bara, Robert Meagher, is at every single crime scene. There he is at Maruka. His car is there. So if you check the number plate, that's Bara's car, Robert Meagher's car. All the victims are bludgeoned on the head, concrete blocked. I did 4,000 concrete block murder cases. Michelle Pogmore was concrete blocked. He's at Michelle Pogmore's crime scene. His car was there as well. He's at every crime scene. And so's his family, all the 14 family. There he is at Michelle Pogmore's crime scene. And they video it, and the video becomes a documentary. The video becomes a documentary. On the documentary, it's the real footage. It's the actual footage. And they video it. And Bada's at every single crime scene. At every single crime scene, Bada's at, Robert Meagher. He's the police murderer, and he's also the Bandito's bikie cook. Okay, Brisbane making cases, joining various islander groups, Aussie groups to serve Harr, trying to charge Team ASIO. Notification of murder solved cases to the medicos. Making cases. Some cases have been transferred to hear their victims' stories. They're testing their cases, AGIS, Australian Government Investigation Standards, we'll be covering that later. Establishing police, and this is the first time they also provide evidence. They're stealing money and assets. Some cases have been transferred to hear the victims' stories. Making cases put them on meds. Cumulative effect. We're testing their cases. Witnesses are all the white family, white power, 14 family. The witnesses are all married into each other. They're all married to Meagher, to Ma, M-E-A-G-H-E-R, to Judge Meagher. They're all married into the one big 14 family. That's why the witnesses are all related. The cases are all bludgeoned on the head. All the victims are bludgeoned on the head. How were they cases killed? This is for Tiahleigh's case, some of it for Tiahleigh's case. How was Tiahleigh killed? How was Michelle Pogmore killed? 200 murders bludgeoned to death. Are they going to make the cases up? The politicians do the police in a way that involves ASIO. They do the cases that involve ASIO. So all their family are all related. 14 family, the witnesses are all related. The witnesses go to the hospital with the ambulance. It's the cases, you heard on the news that the DNA varies. There's a different DNA to what's in the case. It's the witnesses' DNA. Some of the witnesses have up to 30, 40, 50. Some guys have 80 different homicides they're witnesses to. And they made a statement citing sexual behaviours. They all made a statement in every case. So if they made the statement, that means they're there. That means they're there if they made the statement. Or they fabricate cases. Prosecution of rights while they fabricated cases. They fabricate all their cases. The Ku Klux Klan, white power. I have to work on this every day. A lot of people, groups and industry. How do they get an ASIO role that takes them to Hollywood when they say the Klan say I raped her? I have specialised operating skills, counter strategies in order to maintain and operate in its. It fits perfectly their answers to solve national security challenges. ASIO needs to ensure the safety of all Australians, no matter how big or small, to rise to prosper protection of rights while they fabricate cases. I've been driving this operation from the beginning. We need a lot out to ensure that the safety of our citizens. The goal is to get these people down. They're driving ASIO concrete block cases. They're denying ASIO concrete block cases. So they deny that they're all bludgeoned on the head. Even Michelle Pogmore was bludgeoned on the head. They were transferring the ASIO block cases to them. They were transferring the ASIO work to them. In some cases, Stormfront organises that conduct. In some cases, Stormfront organises that conduct. Victims often surrounded with tag teams supporting the simulation. Now, when you solve a case, they hover around and they get you into mental health. Victims told it was R. In some cases, they knew that R killed them and they called emergency services on them when they said it was R. Robert Meagher. Precedent: cases involving the same essential material facts must be decided against the same way. Doctrine of stare. Telephone cases are federal cases. Meagher cases are federal cases. Their cases start whenever someone enters a building. Their cases start whenever someone enters a building. What are the conditions of being held under? Their cases start whenever they enter a building. They do their cases whenever someone enters a building. Their cases are federal cases. Targeting raiders. In some cases they stuff you up. Some cases the raiders get you to get drugs. Problems, including some domestic cases. Solve cases with my email. My email solved a lot of cases. Even today they said it's their email. Are these witnesses in cases? Are these groups witnesses in cases? They are. They're all witnesses in cases. All these people are witnesses in cases. 400 cases. I did the 400 cases. The zero model, they harass them while they get someone to report you. The zero model, they harass them while they get someone to report you, to get you out. Paperwork and plans in some cases. Is it a disaster? It is a disaster. They need a disaster plan. The disaster is going to continue if they don't. If they don't stop, the disaster is going to continue. Ku Klux Klan. It's a Ku Klux Klan investigator in area military-related cases worked diligently. Military-related cases. Their cases have been rewinding. We covered rewinding in the previous ones. Cheeses Raiders. Ku Klux Klan cheeses. There's been a lot of setback. However, we brought a lot of Bob Meagher's teams. We seized control of the drug assets, including their cocaine ice operations, their perilous position. With local support, they can overcome them. We're starting to see some progress as a nation. Strategy and terror at its base, matched by political effort that we allege funds so much of their operations. Reported cases of police telephone are followed to the medical condition. Multiple confessions. They have multiple confessions in each case. In every case, it was multiple confessions. Now, Robert Meagher did every homicide. Robert Meagher did every single homicide was done by Robert. His car was there. He's their leader, and everyone has to get him off. Rewinding cases. Solve cases. Solve Pogmore. Significant cases are linked. All the cases are linked to each other. They solved a previous case, for example. Cases Pogmore. Linked cases to the Barra driver. Homicide cases. Murder cases. Jobby's concrete block murder cases. Cases are blocked, concrete blocked. They admitted I solved cases with my email. South African clan groups, police, political entities appear to be complicit in these cases. The reconstruction of these cases by switching the details around. Now everything is swapped or refuted. They swap everything around. The reconstruction of these cases by switching the details around has adversely affected the government in these cases, implicated the government. This in turn undermines the trust the community has in the government in future cases. We have made it clear from the start that these people found guilty in changing and sabotaging cases will receive a life sentence. Changing, swapping, switching the details around. They switch the details around in the cases. The South African clan groups, all sent to South Africa over a decade ago. Jose's number is the one that solves all the cases. They do their cases over and over and over again on the victims. On the victims, they never stop doing a case on the victims. They do the cases over and over and over again. Donald Trump's incoming president's intelligence brief. With a failed FBI and failed law and order, am I facing a legal police safe that's collapsed? The legal system collapsed and cops simply weren't doing any more homicide cases. As we completed 5,000 cases, every case we're set to achieve this target early on this year, or 2024. We redid every single case. The legal system collapsed and the police aren't doing any more child murder cases. Their child sex cases are classified. They want a child sex cases classified as ASIO. ASIO have ascertained whatever a patient says makes no difference to their diagnosis. In some cases, they are witnesses in serious crimes. ASIO has ascertained they do their cases over and over again on their Meagher phone victims. ASIO opens P1 child birthday party concrete block murder cases. Enterprise infrastructure solutions. Now this is tricking and spoofing, mitigating intelligence. With the Meagher, they mitigate intelligence. Used for coordinated attack, DDoS, eavesdropping, spoofing, etc. Used for coordinated attacks, DDoS, traffic disruption, four-way red traffic disruption, hardware error checking causes lights to go on default schedule, personal gain. They do it for personal gain. The robbers get away with it. Lights to favour attacker to hinder emergency vehicles, terror attack, traffic disruption system uses default schedule, traffic disruption, coordinated attack, reverse engineering, light state behaviour. Invalidate data from sensors, disable sensors, traffic disruption at ramps, intersection, terror attack, traffic disruption, possible accidents resulting in injuries, extensive monitoring damage, traffic disruption, personal gain, traffic disruption system uses default schedule 681. Here we have the police, the robbers. All the intersection points is the Meagher. They get away with it. Every time you interact with these Meagher people, they're getting away with something. They're getting away with it. Every interaction point. The police, the robbers, and they're the attackers of the Meagher people. The Meagher people did every single case. Otherwise, they get away with it. The FBI, what are the police doing with their cases? In 17th April 2020, we asked what the police are doing with their cases. The legal system has collapsed now. ASIO alleged that you have a sabotage framing in criminal cases. They stuff your relationships, stuff your work, stuff your money management, stuff your health, stuff your medical appointments. They drive you out, loss of work, loss of income. money management, transport and disability. They often make you move or something happens. Then they start sabotaging and framing for criminal cases. Once they stuff it, they start framing for criminal cases. Robert Meagher in every homicide murder train at Hornsby Police, KKK, that's right, about way to go. ASIO advised investigator Harr Gunatilaka conducted over 5,000 cases. Robert, including Australia's biggest cases, Daniel Morcombe, William Tyrell, Tiahleigh and Michelle Pogmore, is a content creator and writer of DM Joint Cryptology Information Warfare website. Is the official website of the Department of Military. Herbert raped Michelle Pogmore and the cops keep trying to murder our female ASIO officers. So Badar's the murder trainer. He did every single homicide. Robert Meagher, Badar. There's his cars at Maruka. Now, email. My email links up with murder cases. I did over 500 summary executions in my email. Their email, the timeline is all the same. They did an email dump. They copied my email and in some cases they changed the emails. Then they authorised foreign nationals to work on the emails and steal the documents, in some cases change them. Their email is rejected. My email is under a court order. They have a poor standard of emails. They change the emails. There's a poor standard of emails. Was Tiahleigh with the people working on the William Tyrell case? Michelle's case became other cases. Murder cases and police work. They saw how with William Tyrell, theft, Michelle Pogmore, Daniel Morcombe, with kids next door, main one federal police child protection, you are. They saw me with Michelle Pogmore, with Daniel Morcombe, with William Tyrell. That means that they're there. If they saw me, that means they're there. And now we know they were robbed as well. Daniel Morcombe was robbed. He's lost his watch. Look on the original documentary. They couldn't find his watch. It was like a swagger watch. They always say for something stupid to say. No, all the victims were robbed as well. They were bludgeoned on the head. They saw them. That means they're there. They saw them. That puts them there. Stealing Director Harr Gunatilaka email account. Stealing Director Harr Gunatilaka ASIO Daniel Morcombe work. Stealing Director Harr Gunatilaka 5,000 homicide plus Australia's biggest child murder cases. ASIO email work. Michelle Pogmore casework. William Tyrell casework. Tiahleigh casework. Stealing Director Harr Gunatilaka ADC Defence Infrastructure CIA National Security Systems Engineering work. I don't know why it didn't work. It just went off. It went off twice. This is the third time I'm doing this now. Stealing Director Harr Gunatilaka ADC ASIO National Security Systems Engineering JNCC work. Oh, Hammy, you fucking bitch, get out of my conversation. This is ASIO only. Only for ASIO. Stealing Director Harr Gunatilaka ADC Building Housing Links. Stealing Director Harr Gunatilaka International Towers. Value greater than $6 billion. Cases are classified. Gardening analysis. They stuff your gardening, stuff your domestic relationship, domestic issue, custody, children, travelling, food and supplies, health issues, political issues, criminal activity. Then they start framing you for cases. Once they stuff your gardening, stuff your library, stuff everything, then they start framing for criminal cases. It's because you did a child murder case. When you solve a child murder case or send something in about a child murder case. People arriving, walking past or saying, hovering, otherwise known as hovering. They all tag team on you to get you into mental health. And they say things about child murder cases. There's no need to comment or comment or say things. ASIO opens P1 child birthday party concrete block murder cases. The board, MI6 all charged with child sex, devil worship. MI6 child sex, baby sex. FBI all charged. Zara LRAD all charged with child sex, baby. Australian Police, State, Federal, British Home Affairs, Australian Home Affairs charged with stalking, perpetual harassment and terrorism. ASIO obtained whatever a patient says makes no difference to their diagnosis. In some cases, the witnesses in serious crimes. So they're witnesses in serious crimes, these people. ASIO obtained, they do their cases over and over again on their Meagher phone victims. The FBI asked what are the police doing with their cases. We asked that before. ASIO alleged the PIC from around Australia training commands and their police students claimed ASIO investigation work used Homicide unit to include in training where they discussed how to review and align strategic priorities. You stop! Share command initiatives, participate in building P1 cases and challenge Australian military education, training commands and Australian national security leadership and staff. ASIO alleged during the meeting they wanted to remove Director General of Australian National Security, better understand the inner workings of the PIC, business build relations, new ideas, and open P1 Sonic unit cases and become ASIO. They wanted to refute all of ASIO's findings, which they call refute, which is changing all their findings of ASIO, to say that they didn't do the case. ASIO alleged as their raiders, those police intended to question the Director General of Australian National Security with regard to Australian National Security cases in order to reverse the investigations costs are added. Swarms, in case individuals can be overcome on ad hoc basis with a distributed peer-to-peer IP network, gateways, bridge, video and data assets that information, communication can be shared with and agencies as needed on an invitation basis environment. Swarms. This is where they hover around and swarm around you. At the library, etc. Agencies' information may benefit from responding agencies sharing this information in real time can significantly improve outcomes. The type of media shared by each agency can vary. For example, the fire department may only share their radio communication with others. The school may have radio, video, intercom, but with the IWS, each agency can receive media from other agencies. E.g., the fire department can receive video shared from the school and or security. In this way, each agency situational awareness without the need to swap radios or execute memorandum of understanding. ASIO alleged some of these groups have been determined to be accessories in the Australian National Security P1 cases. They stated Harr Gunatilaka would be taken in. They stated I'll be arrested. So they're all accessory to murder in the P1 cases. They have cases and they say I'll be taken in. So they're swapping it. Identify. They stated Director Harr Gunatilaka would be taken in. Identify. Enterprise Infrastructure Solutions. It's my vast collection to sort of a little bit of it. FBI, what are the police doing with their cases? ASIO alleged that the raiders, those police that intend to question the Director General of Australian National Security with regard to the Australian National Security cases in order to reverse the investigation costs added. We covered that already. Request the infographic that shows spike on the number of Meagher related cases there are versus Meagher teams versus time. So when they do the Meagher, the domestic violence, attacks with neighbours, fights, it goes through the roof. The domestic violence, the attacks on neighbours, fights go through the roof. And that's how the police get their work for the next day. Request the infograph that shows a spike in number of Meagher related cases there versus Meagher teams versus time. ASIO advised expert investigator Harr Gunatilaka, Director Harr Gunatilaka ADC have been conducted over 5,000 cases, including Australia's biggest cases. Daniel Morcombe, William Tyrell, Tiahleigh Palmer, and Michelle Pogmore. Is a content creator and writer of DM'd Joint Cryptology Information Warfare website. Is the official website of the Department of Military. Herbert raped Michelle Pogmore, and the cops keep trying to murder our female ASIO officers. Public affairs, counterintelligence, Hollywood side, music, movies and entertainment, defence, enterprise, infrastructure, risk management. I got 8 degrees and 2 PhDs I've earned in 20 years. I just do my work. Director Harr Gunatilaka is waiting to graduate and earned 8 military degrees and 2 PhDs over 19 years of undercover ASIO assignment. Director of Intelligence DI Intelligence Studies, PhD, Sherman Kent School of Intelligence Analysis, CIA, Special Operations Irregular Warfare degree, Combating Terrorism Policy and Strategy degree, Systems Engineering Analysis degree, Information Strategy and Political Warfare degree, Information Warfare Systems Engineering degree, Information Sciences PhD, Operations and Analysis degree, Cryptology Information Warfare, Director General of 6 agencies. ASIO alleges the primary care manager within 24 diagnosis. They say you're mental when you do a case. They all say you're mental. ASIO alleges they have a problem with their cases and that their work is too poor for the police. Their work doesn't meet the standard. Their work doesn't meet the investigation standard. Now with the Parliament, the laws haven't been signed off by the Commonwealth. They haven't been signed off by the Crown. So a lot of the laws are invalid. In the Legislative Assembly, legislation in New South Wales Parliament, the laws are invalid. Home and places where children learn and play do not become a safe environment. There have been examples of cases where children can't eat and are known to be afraid to attend class. In several of these cases, they hassle them from whenever they look at the blackboard, and they have reported cases of the invisible friend causes a climate of fear and anxiety for them. Both teachers and parents have reported cases over the past few years. Australian National Security would like to see more reporting of these cases. Relevant authorities follow up cases in the politicians' invisible friends into the health and medical professions. Revisit those children's cases of physical or sexual abuse as a factor. We allege that LRAD phone groups have users on children as young as 3 years old, where they learn to play in kindergarten and also across certain schools. In some cases, victims have been characterised by their low economic status. A lot of their victims, a lot of their children that they molest, that they murder, are all characterised by their low economic status. Sometimes they get you to dress down, and then they frame you for a low economic status. They get you to wear grunge, and then they frame you for being a low economic status. MI6, etc. MI5 board. The Liberals never said it was their child wanking cases, failed national security objectives. ASIO advised Defence Industry Information reject their offer. They are to provide evidence of the open P1 cases to close 5 current national security ASIO cases. Mum, can you close the cases? The 5 cases: Tiahleigh Palmer, Michelle Pogmore, William Tyrell, Daniel Morcombe. Thank you. At your earliest convenience. FBI asks what the police are doing with their cases. Everything is fabricated. Medieval times. The FBI alleges the police don't investigate serious criminal cases. Australian no evidence. Criminal cases are done by Australian politicians, their families, and their community. I don't know why the politicians want to do a case. Any involvement is a life sentence. The politicians and their family do the cases. All these hillbillies are the politicians' families, all these pedophiles. They're all the politicians' family. The politicians are all one big family, all married into each other, Liberal and Labor. The FBI alleged MI6 will be spending millions and millions of dollars building hidden child murder cases right now. Yeah, it's recording now. And how to house equipment because of the facilities, some of which are 100 years old or older, cannot accept the kind of infrastructure that we need to get these programs online. ASIO told the Joint Parliamentary Committee on Intelligence and Security. MI6 have hundreds and hundreds of child murder cases. They're all pedophile child murderers, MI6. The FBI alleged when you see some of the child mental cases, you're truly shocked, Navy ASIO UR said. The FBI alleged Department of Veterans Affairs presenting cases planned initial deployment of $16 million electronic health record project by Meagher schizophrenic program in criminal proceedings and cases. So we added all the Meagher recordings to every police case. Now the police said they're not doing the police cases anymore because they're never going to do the Meagher. We added the recording to the Meagher case file, criminal proceedings, and we're currently in the process of attaching it to the health report, the recordings and transcripts, where they develop long-term strategic approaches to criminal cases, training resources to standardise processes and policies. ASIO declare operations must work to facilitate dialogue and information exchange amongst leaders of mental health care groups and policymakers to discuss ongoing issues, new developments and relevant information that address mental health and addiction services in criminal cases. ASIO alleged they requested Harr's pay and didn't do the work for the French ISO's number. Cases they didn't do. What are the list of cases that they didn't do? They requested money and they didn't do the cases. FBI Director Operations to apprehend their pedophile cops prostitutes for fabricating different types of time scenarios for each framed suspect of the P1 open birthday party concrete block murder cases. The FBI alleged Ben Roberts and ASIO teams, Australia First, have different time scenarios for each framed suspect of the P1 open birthday concrete block murder cases, together with risk profiles with the guy with the huge ass but Robert Meagher. The FBI asked, do the Ben Roberts and ASIO teams, Australia First, have a modelling or TV work portfolio, with some cases reflected? The FBI asked Ben Roberts and ASIO teams, Australia First, which investigators did you divest or stop? That will give you more time for setting suspects up, resources for fabricating different time scenarios for each framed suspect of the P1 open birthday concrete block murder cases. The FBI asked, do Ben Roberts and ASIO teams, Australia First, understand different types of time scenarios for each framed suspect of the P1 open birthday concrete block murder cases, such as incremental adjacencies and disruptive and crystal methamphetamine time scenarios for each framed suspect. The FBI alleged Ben Roberts and ASIO teams, Australia First, are training Director Harr Gunatilaka analysis work to educate them on these different approaches. The FBI asked, are the Ben Roberts and ASIO teams, Australia First, going to learn and training of having different types of time scenarios for each of the framed suspects of the P1 open birthday concrete block murder cases. The FBI alleged ANU training has failed with the Australian First, Ben Roberts and ASIO teams different types of time scenarios for each framed suspect of the open P1 birthday concrete block murder cases. ASIO was saying they initially solved two cases, Sandra Cawthorne and Michelle Pogmore. Then they said I was schizophrenic. When I solved the two cases, they said I was schizophrenic. ASIO has obtained DNA analysed for serious cases different from other current evidence in each instance. ASIO has obtained the witnesses are all related. ASIO has obtained the Australia First, Judge Meagher's DNA, Liberal Party, 14 family, White Power family. All related, all the witnesses. Now it turns out to be the murderer. They run scripts, they know where everyone was for their cases set up. Now what happened is the direct operations apprehend the police for Windows firewall with advanced security that is default rules to allow or deny connections to systems. These rules automatically adjusted on Windows servers as roles are added or removed to allow necessary reports, protocols, so rules for specific applications that would need to be managed by the sites. Now the people that they framed in these cases, P1 cases, time scenarios, now they were monitoring them. When they were framing, the police were monitoring them. As a result, the police firewall, the Windows firewall, has detected intrusions, has left its signature there. They know when they were on online, offline. They know when they were online, where they were. They know where they were because they were monitoring them, monitoring their devices, monitoring their handheld devices, monitoring their mobile, monitoring their watches, monitoring their TVs, smart TVs, monitoring. And now they put software onto these appliances. They put software onto these appliances. Now what's happened is they've arrested all these people. They've put them into custody. But now their firewall is saying that they're not, that they're innocent. So what they're going to do, what Prasadi from Microsoft, IBM, they were going to swap all the people that they've arrested with other people that weren't online. They're going to swap all the credentials and swap all the names. We caught them out doing that. The Windows firewall catches them, knows exactly where they were when they got set up. They know where, they run scripts, they know where everyone was for their setup cases. They know exactly where everyone was. So the Windows firewall catches them. So to remove that, the police plan to swap everybody, and we caught them doing that. ASIO alleged they were doing the Australian National Security casework prior to 2016. Robert Meagher, Paul Sullivan, battered body. Can everyone not see whose number plate it is? 795 JCM, Badass car. Did those Jesus cops pick up Tiahleigh Palmer? Parked at every concrete block murder case scene. Why is his car parked at every concrete block murder crime scene? It was also on their birthdays. Ask the police where he was.
Qui Intel FOUOUR 861 August 29, 2021 Qui Intel FOUO by Harr Gunatilaka page 3 of 8 note, part 4, Crime and Punishment in Medieval England. The FBI alleged the police done not investigate serious criminal cases. Australian no evidencia criminal cases are done by the Australian politicians, their families and the community. It's like medieval times. Trial by combat, also wager of battle. Trial by battle or judicial duel was a method of Germanic law to settle accusations in the absence of witnesses, or a confession, in which two parties in dispute fought in single combat. The winner of the fight was proclaimed to be right. In essence, it was a judicially sanctioned duel. It remained in use throughout the European Middle Ages. If the actual battle took place, it would occur in judicial lists, 60 feet, 18 meters, square, following the taking of oaths against witchcraft and sorcery. If the defendant was defeated and still alive, he was to be hanged on the spot. However, if he defeated his opponent, or if he were able to fend off his opponent from sunrise to sunset, he would go free. If the plaintiff said the word craven, I am vanquished, and gave up the fight, he was to be declared infamous, deprived of the privileges of a freeman, and was liable for damages to his successful opponent. As per Crime and Punishment in Medieval England, link, https, U2B5 7 SF's note. UR 444 November 4, 2017 by Harr Gunatilaka page 1 of 2 part 1. Q Are the politicians going to protect our homes? A. Harr has been cleared. Me. A. Diaresis Yen Me direct operations to present findings 10/April 2017. Harr's inspection pass mark 100%. Harr was the quickest. Part 2. ASIO have ascertained the DNA analyzed from serious cases differ from the current other evidence in each instance. Part 3. ASIO have ascertained the witnesses are related 310A. Part 4. ASIO have ascertained their Australia first 337A. Note, Harr is instructed to read his novel 2 hours before bedtime. Note: Meagher telephone radiation cannot pass through water. Q. Are any of them in the military corps? Yes. Part 5. ASIO have ascertained Harr, me, is authorized Jewellery to post operational details. They are there to serve the federal police ops. JK. Part 6. ASIO have ascertained they have conducted police Meagher training. Part 7. ASIO have ascertained they were lent for official use only. FSOU. Level and Qui Intel FOUOUR 806 September 13, 2020 Qui Intel FOUO by Harr Gunatilaka page 1 of 3. This content is classified for official use only. FSOU. Level and may contain elements of controlled unclassified information, CUI, unclassified, or information classified at a lower level than the overall classification displayed. This content shall not be used as a source of derivative classification. Refer instead to Executive Order 12333 United States Intelligence Activities. It must be reviewed for both classified national security information, CNSI, and CUI in accordance with DOD 5230.09 prior to public release. Q. The FBI ask how much time do the Australian politicians and ASIO spend focusing on getting Michelle Pogmore's child murder case conducted versus stealing Director Harr Gunatilaka ADC award? Their time suddenly changes direction to setting up Director Harr Gunatilaka, then claiming they did the CIA Director Harr Gunatilaka ADC daily intelligence brief analysis. Q. The FBI ask what did the Australian politicians do to identify and keep track of potential threats and opportunities for Ben Roberts and ASIO teams? The FBI allege Ben Roberts and ASIO teams' Bulgari management is embezzlement, saying Director Harr Gunatilaka is sick and taking his business. The Brethren and Freemason devil worshippers using Huawei Sonic Unit to decrypt the U.S. Department of Defense emails and persistent stealing of Director Harr Gunatilaka ADC award by seeking employment in U.S. Navy information warfare. The FBI allege the Ben Roberts and ASIO teams, Australia First, have different time scenarios for each framed suspect of the P1 open birthday concrete block murder cases together with risk profiles with a guy with huge ass. But are Robert Meagher. Q. The FBI ask do the Ben Roberts and ASIO teams, Australia First, have a modeling or TV work portfolio? With some cases reflected. Q. The FBI ask Ben Roberts and ASIO teams, Australia First, which investigations did you divest or stop? That will give you more time for setting suspects up and resources for fabricating different time scenarios for each framed suspect of the P1 open birthday concrete block murder cases. Q. The FBI ask do Ben Roberts and ASIO teams, Australia First, understand different types of time scenarios for each framed suspect of the P1 open birthday concrete block murder cases, such as incremental adjacencies and disruptive and crystal methamphetamine time scenarios for each framed suspect? The FBI allege the Ben Roberts and ASIO teams, Australia First, are training Director Harr Gunatilaka analysis work to educate them on these different approaches. Q. The FBI ask are Ben Roberts and ASIO teams, Australia First, going to learn training of having different types of time scenarios for each framed suspect of the P1 open birthday concrete block murder cases? The FBI allege the ANU training is a faileta or with all the Australia First on Ben Roberts and ASIO teams with different types of time scenarios for each framed suspect of the P1 open birthday concrete block murder cases. Key P number equals corresponding highlighted daily intelligence brief page 00. Qui Intel FOUOUR 806 September 13, 2020 Qui Intel FOUO by Harr Gunatilaka page 2 of 3Q. The FBI ask what is the Ben Roberts and ASIO teams, Australia First Brethren and Freemason devil worship of, they call fuck, controlled risk-taking and deliberate learning? ASIO and the FBI direct operations to apprehend their managers, individual managers and collective managers for continually looking for new ways of stealing their Harr Gunatilaka ADC award to contribute to Ben Roberts and ASIO teams, Australia First, and partners. ASIO and the FBI direct operations to apprehend the Australian politicians for the commercial cultivation of cannabis. ASIO and the FBI direct operations to apprehend their pedophile cops, prostitutes, for fabricating different types of time scenarios for each framed suspect of the P1 open birthday concrete block murder cases. Gunatilaka page 1 of 3 purchased a VPN and Optus Party account to kiddie porn. ASIO allege the NSW police, AFPO states, Office of Professional Standards. Investigative offices accurately maintained equipment records and complied with vehicle and availability pay requirements. Offices were also accurate in accounting for all firearms. Investigative staff were diligent in complying with the Australian National Security Management Directive relating to the referral of allegations. However, we noted deficiencies in compliance with evidence of the Australian National Security Daily Intelligence Brief requirements. ASIO direct the NSW Police to ensure officers comply with the Australian National Security Objectives and Daily Intelligence Brief as per link, https://1drvmisfs, rfax with 3dqpn5gn4 vhrazd allege the Awab Media Group media investigations and media reports reviewed appeared to be based solely hearsay, their opinion, speculation, interpretation and embellishment. ASIO grave ASIO have ascertained as per the Australian National Security Objectives and Daily Intelligence Brief requires that supervisors ensure that all allegations were properly addressed. ASIO grave all leads were pursued. ASIO grave and all witnesses were interviewed. However, the Director General of Australian National Security found that ASIO grave agency did not properly address all allegations in the P1 cases and did not pursue all leads or interview all witnesses in PKA. Police Clan Australia applicable cases. Chiasis Group. ASIO have ascertained former NSW police officials stated they disagreed ABC Media Group with this finding because they review all allegations of misconduct and instituted safeguards to ensure that they address all allegations, pursue all leads, and interview all witnesses. However, to ensure compliance in future investigations, the former NSW police officials will examine the William Tyrell child murder case. ASIO determined former NSW police investigations did not properly address all allegations and or did not pursue all leads, as well as the 5 ASIO Australian National Security investigations where ASIO found NSW police investigators failed to interview all witnesses, as per link, https://www.facebook.com/Daniel Morcombe 1/https://www.facebook.com/Miss Pogmore 1/https://www.facebook.com/William-Tyrell FBI Investigation 710,946,219,007,682 https://www.facebook.com/Tiahleigh-Palmer FBI Investigation 1043762455680238 ASIO have ascertained former NSW police officials also stated that the existence of a post-published ASIO advised the AFP purchased a VPN and Optus Party account to Kitty Porno as an indicator that they exhausted all investigative leads as per link, ends up with https://www.facebook.com/710946219007682/posts/1513741825394780/ UR 699 December 19, 2018 by Harr Gunatilaka page 2 of 3 ADIRS's yen media ADIRS's yen ASIO direct the FBI to apprehend them for their internal review process where officials also stated that the existence of a post published ASIO advised the AFP purchased a VPN and Optus Party account to Kitty Porno as an indicator that they exhausted all investigative leads where they are reviewed by 2 layers of management, both the first line supervisor PKA, Police Clan Australia Chiasis Group, and the second line supervisor, ABC Media Group. ASIO have ascertained according to officials, NSW Police, AFP states, Office of Professional Standards this rigorous review process fails the former NSW Police to properly address allegations, establish all elements of proof, interview all necessary witnesses, pursue the necessary leads, and address all critical issues. ASIO have ascertained furthermore, the federal ICAC reviews all purchased VPN and Optus Party account to Kitty Porno as an indicator that they exhausted all investigative leads with the finding of ADIRS's acute, referred them to management for legal sufficiency. A finding of R referred to management indicates that the evidence obtained during the investigation establishes it is more likely than not that the employee committed actionable misconduct that management should review, and former NSW police did not close the case. ASIO conclude the existence of a purchased VPN and Optus Party account to Kitty Porno only attests that they also UPA the Director General of Australian National Security Harr Gunatilaka, and that it was not investigated to standards. Former NSW police process may help to ensure thoroughness, but it still allows for error. Mike Baird is the NSW Police Integrity Commission. ASIO ASIO direct the FBI to apprehend them. When they receive the Director General of Australian National Security Harr Gunatilaka ASIO work that shows the results of a NSW police examination of the Police Clan Australia P1 cases that the Director General of Australian National Security Harr Gunatilaka found did not comply with the transferred ASIO work NSW Police Australian National Security Objectives Investigative Guidebook. ABC Media Group and Police Clan Australia as LIB agents of Australian National Security Objectives and Daily Intelligence Brief. And the ABC Media Group, Harr Gunatilaka Cryptology Information Warfare Director General U.S. Military Intelligence 2017. UR 766 February 6, 2020 by Harr Gunatilaka page 1 of 6 part 1. Police Cybersecurity Note, Simulations, Scenarios, Radio Show, Playwright, Stories over the Joint Worldwide Intelligence Communications, JWIC, Chat Open Word Document Q. The FBI ask how the police would know if we're ASIO or not. Q. The FBI ask how does Tony Barnes approve ASIO. Q. The FBI ask how the police would know how to do ASIO work. Note, Library Word Chat with Computer Control Remote User. They stopped the Pogmore investigation work to join National Security, and I'll do my job in National Security. Do your investigation work. Q. Why do they say they're not becoming National Security, including Caruso FBI Group? Q. Why do Caruso FBI Group say they're not with Tony Barnes' PIC Group, when they are? Q. What were they before they became fake ASIO? The PIC hired them into ASIO? Tony Barnes hired ASIO. They were the cops. Q. Why did they say they did not hire ASIO? Q. Why do you say I really am when Yawa or doing my job? Yawa or really not National Security? Chinese intelligence next to me asked Q. Rouzo if they want my email as well. AS direct operations to apprehend the police for the Windows firewall with advanced security has default rules to allow or deny connections to systems. These rules are automatically adjusted on Windows servers as roles are added or removed to allow the necessary ports, protocols, etc. Rules for specific applications will need to be managed by the sites. Q. The FBI asked the police what firewall with advanced security versions they use, the scripts they run. They know where everyone was for their cases, set up. Key P number equals corresponding highlighted Daily Intelligence Brief page 00. Qui Intel FOUOUR 906 December 7, 2023 Qui Intel FOUO by Harr Gunatilaka page 1 of 3. This content is classified for CUI, unclassified, or information classified at a lower level than the overall classification displayed. This content shall not be used as a source of derivative classification. Refer instead to Executive Order 12333 United States Intelligence Activities. It must be reviewed for both classified national security information, CNSI, and CUI in accordance with DOTI 5230.09 prior to public release. Note, Raiders Gang Work as per Part 5, Gang Work, to include 444, Part 3 and Part 4, as per P 444 Part 3. ASIO have ascertained the witnesses are related 310A. Part 4. ASIO have ascertained their Australia First 337A. Q. ASIO ask are they also linked to a Baki gang? As per page 556, ASIO allege the Grey Nomads motorcycle gang work with and are present with the following: Jason Herbert AS Federal Police, 2 cops, the Ku Klux Klan police that allege the Director General of Australian National Security raped Michelle Pogmore, and include their female police from Robert Meagher's Queensland Police Service Group. ASIO direct operations to apprehend Bob Butts groups. ASIO allege they tried to put me in a gang. Me direct operations to present findings. Note, all cops involved by using Y or Hornsby Ku Cops a White Power Aryan Brotherhood Ku Klux Klan pedophile baby sex initiation terrorist South African. About Ku Klux Klan 777 one separate event in a series of events show, which is part of a larger story set amount of time during which events take place. A way to emphasize what you will say: white power, the power, resources or skill to do something average of a set of numbers. Verb, to express a particular idea or thought to intend to do something in particular. Director Harr Gunatilaka ADC of a set of numbers, 1 million times x set up. Verb, to express a particular idea. You are 455/28/April/2017 by Harr Gunatilaka. Page 1 of 3. Note: Harr is only interested in performing the best job he can possibly do for the multiple agencies he works for. Part 1. ASIO have ascertained they worry about how it affects their career. Harr can't go on living the way he does. It's very hard. ADIRS's Me Direct Me 5 to present findings. Part 2. ASIO have ascertained Harr's multi-mission intelligence support, and they accomplished all their objectives except for the telephone. Add notes including page 307 plus page 452. ASIO have ascertained they failed to apprehend Michelle Pogmore's murder and stuffed me. Harr. Page 334. ADIRS's Me Direct Me 5 to present findings. Part 3. Except training in decline. ASIO have ascertained they're not operations. ADIRS's Me Direct Me 5 to present findings. Part 4. ASIO have ascertained Louisa Group is not what taking me in. They're charged. Q. What happened to their investors' money? ASIO have ascertained they played with it on the stock market. ADIRS's Me Direct Me 5 to present findings. Note: Harr is required to eat full meals. Part 5. Harr's successful mission since becoming SOCOM Joint Director of Operations. ASIO have ascertained they executed Harr's operation. ASIO have ascertained they harassed Harr most nights, yet never missed a single. 100% punctuality. ASIO have ascertained they hung them up and tried to divide my pay. ASIO ascertained they tried to include me with our Bandito group. ASIO ascertained they drove me from my place when that was the case. Ends up with ADIRS's Me pull down Daniel Morcombe NS case work failure. Find after 26/Feb/17 movies job failure. Get Yacht Lady M failure. You are 455/28/April/2017 by Harr Gunatilaka. Page 2 of 3. ASIO ascertained their triad group joined them to say Mary did Harr's operational work. ASIO ascertained they accused me for being on meth and to take me in Crown's Queen people. USA diplomats around the world. ASIO ascertained the entire time they were waiting to see me. ASIO ascertained they wanted to see who the intelligence community was. ASIO ascertained they were sacked. Page 258. ASIO ascertained their families stated I was masturbating as well and I abused Mary in order to say I was like my dad. ASIO ascertained they showed that. ADIRS's Me Direct Me 5 to present findings. Part 6. Fixated person's medical body. ASIO ask what is unusual? ASIO ask what causes it? What they do is hovering. ASIO ask what are the symptoms? Fixation unusual. ASIO ask how do they know if they have it? ASIO have ascertained they are those identified as per page 296 plus 297 parties that developed their medical policy bills group. ADIRS's Me direct ASIO to present findings as per ASIO investigation, medical issues, medical evaluations, medical standards and safeguards to protect health treatments with a South African military phone. ASIO have ascertained they fit people out. Simulations add page plus South African coup. ASIO ask who are the witnesses of fixation. 1, 2, 3. ASIO have ascertained they hovered around. It's normal to feel ups unusual. ASIO have ascertained they admit patients to hospital criminal case. ASIO ask where the symptoms relieved after medication. No. They joined Channel 9 failure. It's hard to concentrate on normal life, education or work. Update. 9:30 a.m. Friday, July 29, 2022. ASIO Commission High Court of Australia. ASIO advise an application has been made to the High Court of Australia for terrorism by ASIO Military Commission hearing. It causes people to become worried and sick. In SW police charged with LRAD coordinated terrorism. 30 years imprisonment. ASIO advised me 6 are securing our work. They're stealing it, our embezzling US government and British government appropriated funds, pay and investments, and said we're not in anything and we're mental taking over our $50 billion spy enterprise government services contract for themselves by apprehending the Crown people in right of the Commonwealth of Australia Defence, Intelligence Enterprise Infrastructure Work Update. They threatened the Crown people in right of the Commonwealth of Australia people implementing the $50 billion Enterprise Infrastructure Solutions, ICE, and currently are being apprehended. ASIO advise a successful application has been made to the High Court of Australia for the cancellation of citizenship of senior members of NSW Police Task Force Raptor by ASIO Military Commission hearing Thursday, October 21, 2021, for the February 22, 2004 murder of 12-year-old schoolgirl Michelle Pogmore. NSW Police were the child's foster parents. Child rape and gross failure in duty of care of a child in custody. It was also her birthday. How can citizenship be cancelled? Under Section 35 of the Australian Citizenship Act 2007, the Act, a dual national's Australian citizenship will automatically cease if they act contrary to their allegiance to Australia, by engaging in terrorism-related conduct, or if they fight for, or are in the service of, a declared terrorist organisation overseas. When can Australian citizenship be cancelled? Australian citizenship may be revoked if a person has committed a serious offence. A conviction with a sentence of 12 months or more might result in the revocation of citizenship. This conviction could be from any time prior to the grant of Australian citizenship. Absolute Police Case Fabrications, AB, Salute Aryan Brotherhood Salute, the Nazi Salute, Hitler Salute or Sieg Heil Salute, is a gesture that was used as a greeting in Nazi Germany. Arm Heil and But Arm, Arma. ASIO ask who their Absolute Fabrications people are? Q list. ASIO allege after apprehending the KU they joined ADF training in December 2016 to serve as an ASIO specialist. ASIO allege their work lead to absolute relationship programs, cleared the absolute communications people, disclosed absolute efficiency absolute morale and readiness update, 9:30 a.m., Sunday, October 3, 2021, ASIO Commission High Court of Australia, verdict. It causes people to become worried and sick. NSW Police charged with LRAD coordinated terrorism, 30 years imprisonment. The LRAD is real plus it takes human life. We need to share this. Australian operations authorised by Mike Burgess. The FBI alleged the Lib demonstrated their coordinating capabilities. Say ASIO are not ASIO and arrest them as mental. Get law enforcement to use Meagher LRAD and Huawei Sonic Unit to harass them and coordinate terrorism. To off them, the FBI direct the Royal Australian Navy to present a victim impact statement as the financial motivation for them working with this technology, such as consolidating victims in banned criminal groups, pay methods, setups and stealing work, infiltrating, Main 1, and national security agencies to exploit financial budgets. Integrating. Q. The FBI ask where are the next domains for Meagher coordinations or transferring Meagher technology. 1. They pretend to be the police. Page 892, page 477, page 554, page 813, page 668, page 890. Australian Government Investigations Standards 2011, Copyright Commonwealth of Australia 2011. This work is copyright. Apart from any uses permitted under the Copyright Act 1968, no part may be reproduced by any process without prior written permission from the Commonwealth. Requests and inquiries concerning reproduction and rights should be addressed to the Commonwealth Copyright Administration, Attorney General Aus Department, 3 out of 5 National Circuit, Barton ACT 2600 or posted at www.ag.gov.occa. Australian Government Investigations Standards August 2011. Australian Government Investigations Standards August 2011. 2. Australian Government Investigations Standards August 2011. 3. The Australian Government Investigation Standards, AGIS, have been revised through a working group commissioned by the heads of Commonwealth operational law enforcement agencies, HOCALIA, and shared by the Australian Federal Police. In developing the revised AGIS, the working group decided to expand the breadth of its consultation to also include agencies not within HOCALIA. The AGIS is a cornerstone of the Australian government's fraud control policy and is the minimum standard for agencies who are conducting investigations relating to the programs and legislation they administer. The AGIS is mandatory for all agencies required to comply with the Financial Management and Accountability Act 1997. The new AGIS recognizes the diverse context within which Australian government agencies operate and the more prominent role non-criminal sanctions play in investigative responses. The concepts defined in AGIS are designed to allow agencies, both large and small, to apply them to their own operations and to maintain a minimum quality standard within investigations. The revision of AGIS has focused on developing a more concise document, which provides a basis for more measurable and achievable standards. In issuing these revised standards, Hokalia believe that their implementation will provide a benchmark for investigative practices as well as supporting quality reviews and improvements across Australian government agencies. I would like to recognize all departments and agencies for their contribution to the process, in particular, the members of the AGIS Working Group, TW Negus APM Commissioner Australian Federal Police Forward, Australian Government Investigations Standards August 2011, IVE, Australian Government Investigations Standards August 2011, V Table of Contents Forward 3.1, Operating Framework 1 Introduction 1 Standards 1.1 Investigation Policy 1.2 Performance Measures 1.3 Commonwealth Policy Standards 1.4 Legal Framework 1.5 Investigator Qualifications 1.6 Agency Relationships 1.7 Information Sharing 1.8 International Inquiries and Foreign Evidence 1.9 Ethical Conduct 1.10 Media 3.2 Identification of Breaches and Case Selection 5 Introduction 5 Standards 2.1 Receiving and Recording Alleged, Apparent or Potential Breaches 2.2 Evaluation of Referrals or Conduct Identified as Allegedly, Apparently or Potentially Breaching the Law 2.3 Accepting Matters for Investigation 2.4 Referral of Matters to the AFP 2.5 Referral to Australian Commission for Law Enforcement Integrity, ACLA, 2.6 Intelligence 8.3 Investigation Management 9 Introduction 9 Standards 3.1 Investigation Management 3.2 Investigation Commencement 3.3 Planning Phase 3.4 Risk Management 3.5 Implementation Phase 3.6 Investigation Closure 3.7 Quality Assurance Reviews of Investigations 12.4 Investigation Practices 13 Introduction 13 Standards 13.4.1 Witnesses 13.4.2 Formal Interview 14.4.3 Search Warrants 15.4.4 Coercive Powers 15.4.5 Physical Evidence Exhibits 15.4.6 Surveillance 17.4.7 Human Information Sources 18.1 Australian Government Investigations Standards August 2011 Standards whilst conducting an investigation. Agency should comply with the following minimum standards. 1.1 Investigation Policy. The agency is to have clear written policy in regard to its investigative function. The policy should include a statement regarding the agency's objectives in carrying out its investigation functions and use of sanctions. A clear definition of activities applicable to the agency to which the AGIS apply. This should include a description of compliance activities that are not generally considered investigations by the agency. A statement regarding the agency's responsibility to manage matters that are considered minor or routine. And a statement regarding the agency's responsibility to refer criminal matters to the Australian Federal Police, AFP. This should include consideration of joint agency investigation teams, where appropriate. 1.2 Performance Measures. Performance measures should be created in order to monitor the investigations and sanctions undertaken by the agency. Major performance measures may include a brief quality, criminal, a yearly satisfaction survey from Commonwealth Director of Public Prosecutions, CDPP, in regard to the quality of the briefs of evidence submitted by the agency. A brief quality, non-criminal, outcome reports from Australian government solicitors, AGS or relevant prosecuting authority. A brief quality, criminal and non-criminal, the number and type of judicial comment, both favourable and unfavourable, received about introduction. The Australian Government Investigations Standards, AGIS establish the minimum standards for an Australian government agencies. Agencies conducting investigations, where the AGIS are in conflict with law, the legislative requirement will prevail. AGIS applies to all stages of an investigation. An investigation is a process of seeking information relevant to an alleged, apparent or potential breach of the law, involving possible judicial proceedings. The primary purpose of an investigation is to gather admissible evidence for any subsequent action, whether under criminal, civil penalty, civil, disciplinary or administrative sanctions. Investigations can also result in prevention and/or disruption action. The term investigation can also include intelligence processes which directly support the gathering of admissible evidence. This section outlines recommended minimum standards for the following. ASIO Investigation Policy and Performance Measurement ASIO Prosecution Policy of the Commonwealth ASIO Access to Legislation ASIO Investigator Qualifications ASIO Agency Relationships ASIO Foreign and International Inquiries ASIO Ethical Standards and ASIO Media Considerations. 1. Operating Framework, Australian Government Investigations Standards August 2011. 2 agencies must ensure that employees who are primarily engaged in intelligence collection possess or attain relevant qualifications or training to effectively carry out their duties. 1.6 Agency relationships. Agencies should have written procedures regarding liaison with other agencies. These procedures should be available to other agencies and should include ASIO requirements for contact between agencies to be recorded appropriately, and ASIO requirements for all interagency correspondence to comply with relevant Australian government and agency standards, particularly in relation to physical security and security classification. Agencies may choose to develop Memoranda of Understanding, MO, service agreements or investigation specific joint agency agreements. 1.7 Information sharing. Sharing information is to be done in accordance with the Privacy Act 1988 and any secrecy provisions within legislation that may govern information sharing. Agencies should have documented procedures for responding to requests for information from other agencies, including ASIO the type and nature of information held by the agency. ASIO a standard request form, which should be completed by requesting agencies. An electronic submission should be facilitated. ASIO a standard format for responses to request for information should be used. This response should inform the recipient agency of any legislative provisions governing the further use and disclosure of that information. ASIO record keeping relating to the information released and the conduct of investigations by the agency, published and unpublished. ASIO compliance with AGIS standards. Outcomes from any quality assurance reviews conducted in accordance with AGIS. ASIO efficiency and effectiveness. Comparisons and analyses of ASIO the number and type of investigations. ASIO sanctions across financial year periods, or ASIO agencies' performance indicators. 1.3 Commonwealth Policy Standards. Agencies should have regard to the requirements of the following Commonwealth policies. ASIO Prosecution Policy of the Commonwealth. ASIO the Legal Services Directions 2005. ASIO the Commonwealth Fraud Control Guidelines, and ASIO Protective Security Policy Framework. 1.4 Legal Framework. Agencies are to have access to up-to-date versions of all relevant laws and ministerial directives. 1.5 Investigator qualifications. The minimum level of training or qualification recommended for investigations staff are ASIO Certificate IV in Government Investigation, or its equivalent, as set out in the Public Services Training Package, PSP 04. This qualification should be obtained before an officer is primarily engaged as an investigator. Otherwise, the officer should be under the supervision of a qualified investigator. ASIO Diploma of Government Investigation, or equivalent, as set out in the Public Services Training Package, PSP 04, for staff primarily engaged in the coordination and supervision of investigations. 3 Australian Government Investigations Standards August 2011. ASIO procedure for liaising with AGD in regards to formal requests from foreign countries under the mutual assistance regime. ASIO Australian government policy in regard to providing information to foreign agencies where the death penalty may be involved, and ASIO all communications with Interpol must be through the National Central Bureau operated by the AFP. 1.9 Ethical conduct. Agencies must conduct investigations in accordance with the following: ASIO Australian Public Service, APS values, and ASIO APS Code of Conduct. Agencies are required to have a procedure governing the manner in which complaints concerning the conduct of its investigations are handled. These procedures should ensure that complaints are handled in a timely, appropriate and comprehensive manner. 1.10 Media agencies are to have written procedures regarding liaison with the media and the release of media statements in regard to investigations. These procedures should include reference to the following: ASIO media management strategies being considered within investigation plans. ASIO during an investigation, if media interest is foreseen, the agency media area or spokesperson should be briefed on the circumstances of the investigation. ASIO the briefing material should be provided by the officer in charge of the investigation or delegate. and should indicate what information can be provided to the media. ADIRS's only the media spokesperson should have contact with the media. Other staff of the agency should not provide information to the media unless authorized by the senior executive management or the media area. ADIRS's where appropriate, a single point of contact should be nominated by each agency. 1.8 International inquiries and foreign evidence. 1 Outgoing requests to foreign law enforcement agencies for information and evidence. Agencies should have written procedures for making outgoing requests for information from foreign agencies. Outgoing requests for information can be made on an informal basis and on a formal basis through the mutual assistance regime. The decision to seek information on an informal or formal basis will depend on the type of information sought. As a general rule, information required for an investigation that does not involve the use of compulsory powers, such as the issue of a subpoena or search warrant, can be obtained on an informal basis. Where the use of a compulsory power is required to obtain the material or the assistance, or where evidence is sought in a form that is admissible under the Foreign Evidence Act 1994, a request will need to be prepared and submitted under the formal mutual assistance regime. Written procedures should include ADIRS's procedures for making informal requests to Interpol through the National Central Bureau operated by the AFP, and ADIRS's procedures for making formal requests under the mutual assistance regime, though the International Crime Cooperation Central Authority in the Attorney General's Department, AGD, 2 Incoming requests from foreign law enforcement agencies for information and evidence. Agencies should have written procedures for responding to incoming requests from foreign agencies. This should include ADIRS's procedures for determining whether the information can be provided and whether it can be provided on an informal basis or a formal basis. Australian Government Investigations Standards, August 2011. 4 ADIRS's the information released to the media should not ADIRS's grave prejudice a persona right to a fair hearing or the legal process. ADIRS's grave impinge upon the privacy or safety of others involved in the investigation. ADIRS's grave prejudice any actions taken or future actions of the agency or other agencies. ADIRS's with regard to multi-agency operations, a common approach to the media needs to be agreed between agencies prior to any publicity and ministerial correspondence. 5 Australian Government Investigations Standards, August 2011. ADIRS's level of access and confidentiality. ADIRS's who is responsible for its evaluation and assessment. ADIRS's timeframes for evaluation and assessment. ADIRS's who should be notified when the matter is received by the agency and when and how this notification should occur. ADIRS's the need to maintain appropriate confidentiality unless disclosure is required as part of the consideration and investigation of the matter, and ADIRS's the process for dealing with, encouraging and supporting information regarding alleged, apparent or potential breaches which come from within the agency. A template should be included in the procedure which covers the receipt and recording of referrals or conduct identified as allegedly, apparently or potentially breaching the law. 2.2 Evaluation of referrals or conduct identified as allegedly, apparently or potentially breaching the law. Agencies are to have a written procedure covering the initial evaluation and actioning of each matter that has been received or identified. This procedure must include ADIRS's the positions within the agency responsible for making the initial evaluation. ADIRS's time frames for initial evaluation of matters, including describing matters that require an immediate decision and/or response. Agencies need to be mindful of the difficulties caused when matters are not dealt with or referred promptly. These can include loss of evidence, further damage caused by the continuation of the offense, and an increased chance of an unsuccessful outcome. ADIRS's the processes for dealing with referrals or conduct identified as allegedly, apparently or potentially breaching the law requiring an immediate decision and/or response. Introduction. The AGIS establishes the recommended minimum standards for agencies in receiving and evaluating referrals or conduct identified as allegedly, apparently or potentially breaching the law. Alleged, apparent or potential breaches of the law can be identified from a variety of sources including, but not restricted to, ADIRS's members of the public, ADIRS's agency intelligence activities, ADIRS's staff of Australian government or state territory agencies, ADIRS's state territory police services, ADIRS's internal or external audit or review processes, ADIRS's internal fraud control mechanisms, ADIRS's government or ministerial referrals, or ADIRS's overseas governments or agencies. Standards. Agencies should comply with the following minimum standards. 2.1 Receiving and recording alleged, apparent or potential breaches. Agencies where appropriate should have an email address, phone number, fax number or online system for receiving information or referrals from the public. These should be published on the ASIO's website. Agencies must have an electronic system for recording the receipt of referrals or conduct identified as allegedly, apparently or potentially breaching the law. Agencies should have a written procedure covering the receipt of referrals or conduct identified as allegedly, apparently or potentially breaching the law. The procedure should include how the matter is to be recorded within the agency, including 2. Identification of breaches and case selection. Australian Government Investigations Standards, August 2011. 6. If the matter has been identified by a nominated senior person within the agency as a matter of particular seriousness, complexity or sensitivity, and where CDPP resources and priorities permit, further advice may be sought from CDPP. Referral to the responsible state or territory police service for investigation if the matter involves offences under state and territory law. Matters of a politically sensitive nature, deemed appropriate for referral to the AFP, should be referred in accordance with the AFPA's Referral Guidelines 2.3. Accepting matters for investigation. The agency should appoint positions responsible for making decisions regarding the evaluation and acceptance of investigations. It is recommended that these positions are at the SES level, where responsibility can be delegated to other employees. Agencies may form a committee to inform and oversight the decisions and recommendations following the initial evaluation process. Agencies that receive referrals or identify conduct as allegedly, apparently or potentially breaching the law requiring immediate actions, may form committees to oversight decision-making regarding the responses taken. It is not necessary for employees to hold the August minimum training requirements for the decision-making responsibilities outlined in this section. Decisions following the evaluation process must comply with the following principles for selecting cases, specifically, ASIO administer and enforce legislation in a coherent, consistent and objective manner. ASIO operate as transparently as possible so as to be accountable to the government and the public. ASIO take appropriate action against offenders and contraveners. And ASIO processes for maximizing the attainment of accessible relevant information from within the agency, where the collection would not jeopardize any investigation. ASIO, there should be a template for the evaluation which includes ASIO summary of the matter including the information reviewed, including an incident type, whether the matter has previously been identified by the agency and, if relevant, financial value of the matter. ASIO political or public sensitivities. ASIO agency investigative and overall priorities. ASIO legislative requirements. ASIO risks associated with not undertaking an investigation, such as continuation of offenses, effect on agency programs and reputation. ASIO experience of similar cases or case law. ASIO the effect of any other relevant advice. ASIO where an investigation relates to a security incident or advice should be immediately sought from the AFP, and a report should be forwarded to Australian Security Intelligence Organisation, ASIO, in accordance with a protective security policy framework. ASIO whether an investigation by the agency would be a conflict of interest if undertaken by the agency itself. ASIO options and recommendations, including possible criminal, civil penalty, civil disciplinary and administrative sanctions or a combination of these sanctions. No further action on all or some of the issues, referring the matter to an investigation unit within the agency for investigation, seeking further advice from the AFP, relevant legal law enforcement bodies or external counsel. 7. Australian Government Investigations Standards, August 2011. ASIO the use of false names or false documents, or ASIO the repeated commission of deliberate offences over a number of years. A significant harm to the community can be evidenced by the crime involving certain factors, including but not limited to ASIO the threatening of the integrity of the Commonwealth. Commonwealth officers are important government institutions. ASIO impact on the economy, resources, assets, environment or well-being of Australia or Australians. ASIO significant or potentially significant monetary or property loss to the Commonwealth, or ASIO bribery, corruption or attempted bribery or corruption of a Commonwealth employee or contractor to a Commonwealth agency. The existence of any one of the following factors is an indication that the matter is a complex investigation. ASIO, a serious breach of trust by a Commonwealth employee or contractor of a Commonwealth agency. ASIO use of sophisticated techniques or technology to avoid detection where investigation of a matter requires specialized skills and technology. ASIO elements of a criminal conspiracy. ASIO known or suspected criminal activity against more than one Commonwealth agency. ASIO activities which could affect wider aspects of Commonwealth law enforcement, e.g., illegal immigration, money laundering. ASIO the possibility of action being taken under the Proceeds of Crime Act 2002, or ASIO conflicts of interest and or politically sensitive matters. ASIO operate efficiently, effectively and ethically within its resources. 2.4 Referral of matters to the AFP. If a matter is considered by the agency as a serious crime or complex criminal investigation, it must be referred to the AFP in accordance with the AFP referral process published on the website www.afp.gov.au, except where ASIO the agency has the capacity and the appropriate skills and resources needed to investigate serious crimes or conduct complex criminal investigations and meet the requirements of the CDPP in gathering evidence and preparing briefs of evidence, or ASIO where the issue involves alleged breaches of the Commonwealth Electoral Act 1918. The existence of any one of the following factors is an indication that the matter is a serious crime. A serious crime is a crime, ASIO, which involved a significant degree of criminality on the part of the offender. ASIO the Commonwealth or the community expects will be dealt with by prosecution, which is conducted in public before a court, and usually carries the risk of imprisonment. ASIO produced significant real or potential harm to Commonwealth or the community, or ASIO is of such a nature and magnitude prosecution is required to deter potential offenders. A significant degree of criminality can be evidenced by the crime involving certain factors, including and not limited to ASIO criminal behavior by corrupt Commonwealth officers. ASIO bribing of Commonwealth officers. ASIO links to international entities or actions. ASIO multiple offenders acting together in an organized way to perpetrate the crime. Australian Government Investigations Standards August 2011, 82.5 Referral to Australian Commission for Law Enforcement Integrity, ACLI, where an agency that is subject to the Law Enforcement Integrity Commissioner ACT 2006 has an obligation to notify a corruption issue to ACLI. It must do so in accordance with this legislation. 2.6 Intelligence where relevant. Agencies should have a policy outlining the use of intelligence in identifying conduct which allegedly, apparently or potentially breaches the law. This should include ASIO electronically recording matters in a manner that facilitates the identification of trends, risks or convergences that can be readily retrieved and linked to new information. ASIO a process for creating and disseminating intelligence reports to other agencies where appropriate. A standard intelligence report template should be developed by each agency, and ASIO establishing a single point of contact for receiving and disseminating intelligence. 9 Australian Government Investigations Standards August 2011, available resources, reporting arrangements and relevant stakeholders. All relevant documentation should be provided to the investigations team in a timely manner. 3.3 Planning phase. Each investigation should commence with an overall planning process and where possible result in a written investigation plan. This plan should be referred to and updated during the investigation. Agencies which are required to commence investigations in urgent circumstances may do so without a written plan. However, planning considerations during the course of the investigation should be appropriately recorded in accordance with the requirements of this section. The planning process should, where appropriate, ASIO outline objectives of the investigation, potential contraventions or conduct to be investigated, scope of investigation, possible outcomes from investigation. ASIO identify and manage risks. ASIO consider options for resolution and whether urgent injunctive proceedings or preventative actions are required. ASIO identify elements of offenses or civil contraventions. ASIO identify possible inquiries, sources and methods to be utilized to obtain relevant information and or evidence as appropriate. ASIO identify available and or required resources. ASIO outline work phases, timelines and milestones, and ASIO establish the structure of the investigation team including reporting lines, communication tools, identify need for specialist assistance from internal or external experts, IT, accountants, lawyers, subject matter experts, etc. Introduction. The AGIS establishes the minimum standards for the effective and efficient management of investigations. The recommended minimum standards should ensure that agencies can withstand scrutiny of their investigative processes, which can occur through court process, by the media, by the public and by government. Standards 3.1 Investigation management agencies must employ investigation management procedures which are based on project management principles of managing resources, processes, work to be undertaken, time and outcomes. Agencies should have an electronic investigation management system available and provide training in its use. An investigation management system should include the ability to ASIO record investigation plans, investigation activity and management of tasks, ASIO assist in exhibit management, and ASIO facilitate the preparation of briefs of evidence. Agencies are to incorporate the following concepts into investigation management procedures. 3.2 Investigation commencement. Agencies must ensure that any instructions, comments, observations or views relating to decisions or actions resulting in an investigation being accepted by the agency, in accordance with Chapter 2, are communicated to the assigned investigations team. This would include detailing the intended scope of the investigation, expected outcomes. 3. Investigation management. Australian Government Investigations Standards, August 2011, 10. On a regular basis, the reporting process should be considered and defined at the investigation planning phase. These progress reports should include progress achieved, deviations from initial plans, problems, risks, and future actions. 3. Supervisors' review of investigations. Supervisors should review investigations at appropriate intervals to ensure adherence with the AGIS and investigation plans. 4. File and information management. All documents and information must be kept and filed according to agency procedures. Files in electronic cases must be maintained and stored in accordance with agency procedures, the Archives Act 1983 and the Protective Security Policy Framework. Only personnel with the appropriate level of security clearance and demonstrated need to know should have access to investigation files. Separate files should be raised for each investigation. 5. Critical decisions. Critical decisions are those decisions made during the course of an investigation that lead to a significant change of direction in the investigation, resources involved in the investigation, or any decision that may impact on the investigation achieving the stated outcomes for the investigation. These decisions can arise as a result of external developments, evidence that has or has not been obtained, or change of strategy. All critical decisions made during an investigation should be made by an appropriate officer and documented on the investigation file or electronic system. This documentation should include the decision itself, including the reason for the decision, person making the decision, and the date of the decision. Information relied on to make the decision, and any expected or potential significant impact of the decision. Agencies should have a standard investigations plan template. 3.4 Risk management. Agencies should ensure risk management is incorporated in decision-making throughout an investigation. This is particularly important in the following areas: initial evaluation, Chapter 2, investigation project planning, critical decisions, and activity involving occupational health and safety risk. Risk management procedures must comply with the Australian and New Zealand Risk Management Standard, as NZI ISO 31000, 2009, 3.5 Implementation phase. During the investigation, it is necessary to ensure that all work is conducted in accordance with the governance and practices defined in Chapters 1 and 4 and the investigations plan defined above. The following practices should be employed during an investigation. 1. Activity recording. It is essential that the recording of activity in relation to an investigation, interviews, contact with witnesses, meetings, preparation of briefing papers, obtaining documents, use of compulsory powers, decisions, etc. occurs during the investigation. Activity during investigations should be recorded electronically or in written form on a suitable investigations management system using case notes, chronologies, or running sheets. All exhibits should be managed in accordance with details set out in Chapter 4 of these guidelines. 2. Situation reporting. The progress of an investigation should be reported to relevant people within the agency. 11 Australian Government Investigations Standards, August 2011. The prosecution. It is necessary that the investigation plan is used to identify and collect this evidence. Agencies should have a written procedure relevant to preparation of briefs of evidence. The procedure should include responsibility for preparing the brief of evidence, and ADIRS's review and authorization process for submission of the completed brief of evidence to the CDPP or external counsel, including ADIRS's grave evidence assessment to ensure the brief contains sufficient evidence to substantiate the offense or civil contravention provisions, and ADIRS's grave completion of a brief checklist to ensure the brief is of a high standard. 3.6.2 Finalizing investigations. Agencies are to have written procedures relating to finalizing the investigation following legal proceedings, disruption or prevention actions or decision to take no further action. This procedure should include ADIRS's recording investigation results, including ADIRS's grave outcomes from criminal, civil penalty, civil, administrative or disciplinary proceedings. ADIRS's grave summary of advice from CDPP or relevant legal counsel that criminal, civil penalty, civil, administrative or disciplinary proceedings should not commence. ADIRS's grave decision and reasons for not submitting a brief of evidence to CDPP or pursing criminal, civil penalty, civil, administrative or disciplinary sanctions, and ADIRS's grave any subsequent action taken by the agency following CDPP decision not to prosecute. ADIRS's procedure, where appropriate and lawful, for advising the complainants of the outcome of an investigation. 3.5.6 Operational orders or tactical plans. Agencies must prepare a tactical plan prior to any significant operational activity, including the execution of search warrants or arrests, to ensure safety of all persons involved and achievement of objectives. Agencies which undertake these activities should have a standard template for this purpose. 3.6 Investigation closure. Investigations can have a number of outcomes, including taking no further action, the preparation of a brief of evidence, or disruption preventative activities. Where a brief of evidence is required, the following standards should be met. 3.6.1 Brief preparation. A brief of evidence should be prepared to a standard that will maximize the possibility of success in criminal, civil penalty, civil, administrative or disciplinary proceedings. It is acknowledged that variations exist between jurisdictions as to the requirements for the preparation, presentation and/or submission of briefs of evidence. The following standards are a generic guide to the preparation of briefs of evidence irrespective of jurisdiction. All briefs of evidence must comply with the following: ADIRS's applicable laws of evidence, ADIRS's rules of court applicable to the jurisdiction where litigation takes place, ADIRS's prosecution policy of the Commonwealth, ADIRS's CDPP guidelines on brief preparation, ADIRS's legal services directions 2005, ADIRS's guidelines on disclosure to CDPP by investigative agencies, and ADIRS's applicable disclosure requirements in the jurisdiction. The investigator must ensure that a brief of evidence is well organized to assist. Australian Government Investigations Standards, August 2011. 12. A CAR should be done following a request by the agency responsible for the investigation, or as requested by the Attorney General, ADIRS's or Circumflex S Department, in the following manner. ADIRS's and the AFP is responsible for conducting CARs of criminal investigations. ADIRS's CARs relating to non-criminal investigation can be conducted by another agency with the necessary skills and capacity. ADIRS's where a CAR considers issues that are relevant to the CDPP or external counsel, such as the adequacy of the preparation of a brief, the agency conducting the CAR should consult with prosecuting authority. ADIRS's agencies should be given an opportunity to comment on the draft CAR report. The agency's comments will be incorporated into the final report. ADIRS's finalized CAR reports should be sent to the CEO of the relevant agency or delegated position. ADIRS's results of the CAR process, together with an analysis of best practice and deficiencies identified, should be provided to the Australian Institute of Criminology, AIC. ADIRS's procedure for return or disposal of all property and exhibits obtained during the investigation. ADIRS's procedure for preparation of an investigation closure report or formal debriefing to critically analyze the investigation and provide a basis for improving systems, procedures and methodology. ADIRS's a standard template should be used for this report debrief and include ADIRS's grave analysis of results achieved against objectives, ADIRS's grave lessons learned, positive and negative, including training, legal, and resourcing or methodology issues, and ADIRS's grave appropriate follow-up actions. 3.7 Quality assurance reviews of investigations. The purpose of a quality assurance review, CAR, is to establish whether the investigation was conducted in a way that complied with AGIS. A CAR should be conducted in close cooperation with the agency that conducted the investigation. 13 Australian Government Investigations Standards August 2011. 4. Investigation Practices 8 IRSSN. The investigator taking the statement should apply the rules concerning admissibility of evidence pursuant to the Evidence Act 1995 or other laws relevant to the jurisdiction in which the matter may proceed to court. If the investigator is uncertain regarding the admissibility of information, it should be included and highlighted for attention of CDPP or prosecuting agency. 8 IRSSN. A parent, guardian, or a responsible adult must be present during an interview of persons under 18 years of age. The parent guardian should co-sign any statement or affidavit obtained. 8 IRSSN. Witnesses who have a limited understanding of English should be offered the services of an accredited interpreter. The witness statement or affidavit should be prepared in the language spoken by the witness. A copy of this statement should then be translated into English. 8 IRSSN. Where a witness wishes to change part of his or her statement or affidavit after signing, or wishes to add further information, a supplementary statement affidavit must be prepared. The original document must be retained and included in the brief of evidence for 1. 2. Content of witness statements affidavit. A witness statement affidavit is an account of the events that have occurred. The format of a witness statement affidavit should be consistent throughout the agency and should comply with the applicable requirements of the jurisdiction where any court proceedings will occur. Witness statements affidavits should contain the following. 8 IRSSN. Date. The statement must be dated. The date under the signature on the last page is the date the statement is signed by the witness. 8 IRSSN. Heading. A statement in the matter of 8 IRSS 8 IRSSU grave 8 IRSSN. Personal details of witness. The personal details of a witness should be provided introduction whilst undertaking an investigation. It is important to obtain and record the best evidence available to maximize the possibility of a successful outcome for the investigation. All evidence collected must be reliable and relevant to the aims of the investigation. The AGIS establishes the recommended minimum standards in regard to 8 IRSSN. Procedures and methodologies for obtaining, recording and storing relevant and admissible evidence. And 8 IRSSN. The exercise of legislated powers and authority in the conduct of investigations. The powers and procedures of investigators in each agency may differ considerably. This section is concerned with those practices that should be generic to all agencies. Standards. Agencies should comply with the following recommended minimum standards. 4.1 Witnesses for 1. Obtaining information from witnesses should be conducted in accordance with the following principles. 8 IRSSN. Witnesses or potential witnesses should be identified and prioritized during the investigation planning. 8 IRSSN. Witnesses should be interviewed as soon as is appropriate in accordance with the investigation's plan to ensure the best recall of events. 8 IRSSN. A witness statement or affidavit should be obtained and signed at the time of the interview or as soon as possible after the interview. Witness statements or affidavits should include all relevant and exculpatory information. Australian Government Investigations Standards August 2011. 14.4. 1. 3 expert witnesses. It may be necessary at times during an investigation to use an independent expert witness. The selection of an expert should be made following consideration of the persona standing, qualifications, capabilities and relevant experience. The following should be considered when using expert witnesses. 8 IRSSN. It is important that expert witnesses are quarantined from the investigation to ensure that their expert opinion is impartial. 8 IRSSN. If experts are to examine material that has a security classification, consideration of requiring a non-disclosure agreement prior to commencing work on the investigation should be given. 8 IRSSN. The expert witness statement affidavit should provide a full list of their formal qualifications and a summary of their relevant experience. 8 IRSSN. Any relevant legal advice obtained regarding using an expert should be recorded. 8 IRSSN. Court practice notes or case law relating to expert witnesses. 4.2 Formal interview. Record of interviews with suspected offenders or contraveners must be conducted in accordance with the following. 8 IRSSN. Investigators conducting a record of interview must have satisfied the AGIS minimum training requirements. 8 IRSSN. Part 1C of the Crimes Act 1914 or relevant legislative requirement. 8 IRSSN. An interview guide including all legislative requirements should be used. 8 IRSSN. An interview plan should be prepared, where possible, before any suspect interview. The plan should cover the elements of the offense or civil contravention and any anticipated or known defenses to comply with the requirements of the jurisdiction where any court proceeding will occur. 8 IRSSN. Format. If practicable, a witness statement affidavit should be typed. Each paragraph should be numbered. 8 IRSSN. Jurat or declaration. A witness statement or affidavit must include a jurat or declaration, which is required by the jurisdiction where court proceeding is likely to occur. A ASIO body include all relevant observations and conversations relevant to the elements of the offense being investigated. A ASIO conversations. Relevant conversations should be recorded in the first person, i.e. a ASIO could I say to he said a ASIO grave. If a witness is unable to recall the exact conversation, the phrase words to the effect or a ASIO could I cannot recall the exact words. However, a ASIO grave may be utilized prior to setting out a witness's recollection of the conversation in the first person. A ASIO exhibits, where relevant. A witness statement affidavit must fully describe physical exhibits and ensure that all handling of these is fully described to ensure evidence continuity is presented. A ASIO signature of the person making the statement. Signing of a witness statement affidavit must be done in accordance with the requirements of the jurisdiction where any court proceeding is likely to occur. A ASIO witness to the signature. The signing of the statement affidavit by the person making it should be witnessed by another person. This person should also sign the statement affidavit. A ASIO statements affidavits of investigators should be prepared in accordance with the above principles. Content of investigator statements must also include all relevant information including interaction with suspects, handling of exhibits, participation on search warrants, and any other information relevant to the elements of the offence or civil contravention. 15 Australian Government Investigations Standards August 2011. ASIO Guidelines for Execution of Search Warrants by AFP on behalf of Commonwealth departments and agencies, and ASIO CDPP Search Warrant Manual. The principles outlined below will assist in meeting the above requirements for 5. To obtaining physical evidence. When an investigator decides that material held by the agency is relevant to the investigation, this material should be treated as evidence until no longer required for the investigation and/or prosecution. The security and continuity must be maintained from seizure to disposal. An auditable record of the exhibits must be maintained at all times. When collecting evidence, consideration should be given to ASIO preserving forensic evidence, ASIO graves such as fingerprints, DNA, drug analysis, ASIO health and safety of investigators and the public generally, and ASIO protecting investigators from allegations of impropriety. Video or voice recording of seizure processes should be considered in relevant circumstances, e.g., counting of money. The investigator in charge of a scene where property is being seized under warrant, or other compulsory power, should arrange for a record of the scene to be created. This record should identify locations where property was found. 4. 5. 3. Computer or digital evidence. The obtaining of evidence from a computer or a digital device should be conducted by a person with sufficient training or qualifications to ensure preservation and admissibility in court. 4. 5. 4. Property seizure record, or property receipt record. At any time when property is taken by an agency relevant to an investigation, a document acknowledging receipt of the property must be prepared by the officers involved and a signed copy provided to the person responsible for the property. Details of property seized should 4.3 Search warrants. All activity relating to search warrants must be conducted ASIO in accordance with the legislation under which the warrant was obtained, and ASIO in consultation with the CDPP Search Warrant Manual. 4.4 Coercive powers. Agencies must have a written procedure for using any coercive powers during investigations. This procedure should address ASIO consideration of alternative methods to obtain required information, ASIO authorization procedure, ASIO the possibility of seeking advice from the CDPP or Australian Government Solicitor AGS prior to exercising coercive powers. This will be relevant in matters of particular seriousness, complexity or sensitivity where an agreement has been reached with the CDPP to provide advice during the investigation. An ASIO requirement for a critical decision to be recorded on the case management file. Agencies must ensure that any officer exercising coercive powers has sufficient training and knowledge of these powers. Ongoing training, awareness sessions and knowledge assessments must be completed by officers exercising coercive powers as appropriate to the officer's role and level of powers conferred. 4.5 Physical evidence exhibits. 4. 5. 1. Exhibit handling procedures. Agencies' exhibit handling procedures must comply with the following guidelines: ASIO Evidence Act 1995 or applicable laws of evidence, ASIO relevant case law, Australian Government Investigations Standards August 2011. 16 IRS's Yen designated exhibit registrar unit should maintain the exhibit register. The nominated person should maintain and audit the exhibit register in the exhibit room or storage area. This person needs to have an appropriate security clearance and be independent of investigations. 8 IRS's Yen original exhibits should not be attached to witness statements, affidavits, or provided to the prosecuting authority. Once obtained, it is the responsibility of the agency to maintain these exhibits until required at court, returned to the owner, or lawfully destroyed. 4, 5, 6. Preservation and continuity record keeping. It is essential that the physical integrity of exhibits and a reliable record of continuity is maintained. The following principles represent best practice and should be incorporated into agency practice. Specifically, 8 IRS's Yen all property should be seized in the presence of 2 officers, unless exceptional circumstances exist. These should be documented as soon as possible. 8 IRS's Yen appropriate packaging must be used to protect any item of property, and this packaging should be sealed using tamper-evident packaging to protect the integrity of the exhibit. 8 IRS's Yen a systematic and reliable procedure must be used for labeling and sealing exhibits. Such a system must be robust enough to reduce the opportunity for or rebut any allegations of mishandling or inappropriate behavior by investigators. Labels should include the following details: 8 IRS's grave exhibit number, 8 IRS's grave seal number or barcoded identifier, 8 IRS's grave time, date and place of seizure, 8 IRS's grave name of the officer who originally obtained the exhibit, and 8 IRS's grave full description of the exhibit, be recorded contemporaneously. This record should include the following: 8 IRS's Yen date, time, place of seizure, or possession, 8 IRS's Yen name of person providing the item, 8 IRS's Yen name of owner or responsible person, 8 IRS's Yen name of person taking possession of the item, 8 IRS's Yen full description of the item, including any identifying marks and recording damage, and 8 IRS's Yen full description of the location from where it was taken. The property owner or responsible person should be given a copy of the receipt regardless of whether they signed the receipt record. Receipts, signed and dated, should be maintained on the investigation file. It is the responsibility of all officers handling property to ensure continuity of the evidence. This continuity must be appropriately documented with an investigator and witness statements, affidavits. 4, 5, 5. Exhibit register agencies are responsible for exhibit storage, recording, monitoring and reporting of property obtained during their investigations. The following procedures should be followed. 8 IRS's Yen. The exhibit should be recorded in a manual or electronic exhibit register and allocated an exhibit number. The information in the exhibit register should include the full details as recorded on the property seizure record. 8 IRS's Yen. Any subsequent movements of the exhibit should be recorded in the exhibit register. This must include the date, the name and signature of the person taking the exhibit, the reason and the destination. 8 IRS's Yen. Wherever possible, a perishable exhibit should be photographed and returned to the owner as soon as practicable. Unless legal requirements prevent this from occurring, it may be necessary to take a representative sample for testing and for later use in evidence. Government Investigations Standards, August 2011. By the court, the case officer should forward written recommendations to the exhibit registrar regarding appropriate disposal of the exhibit. All exhibits seized by the AFP must be returned to the AFP for destruction. 4, 5, 9. Audit of exhibit registry. The agency must have a documented procedure for conducting formal audits of its exhibits registry to ensure 8 IRS's Yen. The accuracy of the records. 8 IRS's Yen. Independent scrutiny of the procedures associated with possession of exhibits by an agency. 8 IRS's Yen. The security of the exhibits meets with agency policy, and 8 IRS's Yen. Continuity of evidence has been maintained. The agency must ensure that an audit regime is in place that should incorporate audit of 8 IRS's Yen. Minimum of 10% of overall holdings annually. 8 IRS's Yen. Quarterly audit of high-risk items including drugs, cash and firearms, and 8 IRS's Yen. 100% stock take within a 3-year period. 4.6. Surveillance agencies who use any form of surveillance, including physical and electronic, must have written policy or procedures giving consideration to 8 IRS's Yen. Surveillance should only be conducted by personnel who have undertaken the appropriate training or under supervision. 8 IRS's Yen. A critical decision to utilize surveillance should be recorded, with consideration given to risk management issues, as per Chapter 3. Agency approval to conduct or contract surveillance should be obtained from an appropriate level. 8 IRS's Yen. The surveillance must have a lawful objective. 8 IRS's Yen. The collection of personal information using covert surveillance must be conducted. 4, 5, 7. Disposal of exhibits. Return of evidence. Return to agency file. In many cases, documentary evidence obtained in the course of an investigation will have been provided by the investigating agency itself. The original documents should, where possible, be returned to the files of origin following the conclusion of the investigation prosecution period. Where this is not possible, documents must be maintained in accordance with the Archives Act 1983. Return to owner, subject to any contrary order of a court. An exhibit should be returned to its lawful owner if the reason for its seizure no longer exists, or the exhibit is not going to be used in evidence or retention period specified in relevant legislation has expired. This section does not apply to those things forfeitable to the Australian government or subject to dispute of ownership. Where an exhibit is returned, a receipt should be obtained containing the following: ADIRS's name and signature of the person returning the property, ADIRS's name, address and signature of the person to whom the property is being returned, ADIRS's time, date and place of the return of property, ADIRS's a full description of the property being returned, and ADIRS's the appropriate seizure and exhibit number. 3 copies of the receipt should be produced, ADIRS's grave 1 to the owner, 1 on the investigations file, and 1 provided to the exhibits registrar. Unit 4, 5, 8. Destruction, disposal of exhibits on completion of court proceedings. Where an owner requests that an exhibit be destroyed, the investigator should take a signed statement authorizing the destruction, which should include a full description of the item to be destroyed. A copy of that statement should be placed in the exhibit register. Where an item has no owner, or it would be unlawful to return an exhibit to the owner, or the exhibit is subject to a condemnation order. Australian Government Investigations Standards, August 2011. 18. The human source plus the allocation of an human source number, ADIRS's procedures to prevent and address opportunities or allegations of corruption or misconduct that may arise from a relationship with a human source, ADIRS's referral of human sources to the AFP, particularly if they are deemed to be above a medium risk, or if a reward is to be paid, ADIRS's filing of human source files separate from investigation files, and any referrals to human sources only by his/her registration number in any investigation file, ADIRS's security procedures for classifying and handling information about and or provided by human sources, ADIRS's the procedures covering contact with human sources, ADIRS's ethical and legal considerations of utilizing human sources, ADIRS's sharing of information obtained using human sources between relevant agencies and jurisdictions, and ADIRS's procedures for payments to informants in regard to rewards, incentives and out-of-pocket expenses. In accordance with the Privacy Act 1988, surveillance notes and records are official Australian government records and are subject to certain provisions in the Crimes Act 1914 and the Archives Act 1983. Surveillance files should be classified and stored in accordance with a protective security framework policy, ADIRS's when the agency contracts out their surveillance needs, the service provider must adhere to the agency guidelines on surveillance. The agency must ensure all material obtained is provided to the agency for appropriate storage and security. 4.7 Human information sources. Human sources are people who supply or agree to supply information to the agency in relation to investigations, and their identity may need to be protected due to ADIRS's the likelihood of the human source and or persons associated with a human source being put at risk should the nature of the human source's or relationship with the agency become known, and ADIRS's the nature, significance or sensitivity of the information being provided. Agencies which utilize human sources must have written procedures relating to the management of human sources. The procedures should have regard to the following issues: ADIRS's formation of a committee which meets regularly to make decisions regarding the use and registering of human sources and to review human source management practices, ADIRS's standardized criteria to determine if human sources should be registered. A standard risk management methodology should be incorporated into this decision process. ADIRS's procedures for registering human sources, including a personal profile of the human source, including any known criminal history, assessments of motivation, appropriate warnings, and evaluation of. Australian Government Investigations Standards, August 2011. Australian Government Investigations Standards, August 2011. 20. Job number 1184.